Hi, everyone. It's great to have you join us today for our session titled Stop Mussels from Muscling Their Way In. This session is being sponsored by Atlantium. My name is Teresa Hansen. I'm the Vice President of Content here at Clarion Energy, and I will be moderating today's session. The panelists with me today are Leonard Willett and Dennis Bitter. But before I formally introduce Leonard and Dennis, I need to go over a few housekeeping items with you. I'm not going to read every bullet point that is on the housekeeping slide, but I do want to mention just a few things. First of all, we recommend that you shut down any applications that you don't need to be running in the background. This will give you better performance, and it will also allow you to really see and hear this presentation. And on the right side of your screen, just under where you see me, you should be seeing a box with 4 tabs. You can use the Q&A button to ask questions for the speakers and to ask for help from our support team if you have any technical issues. We will be monitoring the questions as they come in, and we do plan on taking audience questions. So please type those in at any time during this session. You don't have to wait until the Q&A portion of the session to do that. And then, of course, if you do have any technical issues, please make sure that you let us know through that same Q&A button. The slides for the session are available for you to download. You can do that by just using that download button that you see there. You can also expand or contract the slides and the speaker view for your viewing pleasure. Just double click on the screen that you want to expand or contract. You can use the HydroVision Exchange platform to network with attendees as well as speakers in this session. We encourage you to explore it at your leisure once this presentation is over, or really at any time that's convenient for you. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you can use the platform to connect with partners and speakers and attendees just by clicking on the interested button on their profile. And then also, if they are interested as well, you can set up meetings with those individuals. So please do explore the platform. So that's it for the housekeeping items. I'd now like to introduce you to Leonard Willett and Dennis Bitter. Leonard Willett is the water treatment specialist with more than 25 years of experience operating and managing large-scale water and wastewater facilities. Leonard is an associate of RNT Consulting, where he addresses mussel control options. Prior to joining RNT, Leonard was the Environmental Compliance Manager and quagga mussel coordinator for the Bureau of Reclamation in the Lower Colorado region. Leonard oversaw facility reviews, research, and installation of environmentally friendly control barriers used to combat the invasion of quagga mussels at Hoover, Davis, and Parker dams and their associated hydroelectric plants. Dennis Bitter is the sales director for Atlantium's Power, Energy, and Industrial Group. He's responsible for selling the HOD UV technology for aquatic invasive species, dechlorination, and disinfection applications. Dennis is going to start our session today with a brief presentation to set the stage for the discussion that will follow. So Dennis, I'll turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you for the great introduction. And I would like to thank the participants who have joined us today to learn how to stop mussels from muscling their way in. Our walkaway. We hope you walk away from this session with a deeper appreciation of the due diligence and remedies that can be taken to help your hydroelectric facility address aquatic invasive species, particularly quagga and zebra mussels. Zebra and quagga mussels decrease plant reliability, heat transfer and exchangers, and increase maintenance. Invasive species such as zebra, quagga, and golden mussels have transferred around the world in ballast waters of the shipping industry. Invasive zebra and quagga mussels arrived in North America in the mid-'80s and quickly moved where water flowed or transferred, primarily due to boating. 2 mussels can put out 1 million eggs that can grow into adults within 2 to 4 months. Their proliferation is fast, that can plug an 8-inch pipe within a year. When hydropower facilities are fouled with invasive mussels, power production can be severely hampered. When not controlled, mussels have colonized into structures, trash racks, penstocks, gates and valves, cooling water systems, fire water protection systems, service and domestic water systems, and even your instrumentation, causing unplanned outages and economic penalties. The lost production, high maintenance have cost the hydro community billions of dollars, and given the extent of these factors, a power facility could be derated. Further, the mussels filter the water and increase water clarity, This clarity increases sunlight deep into the water column. When combined with nutrients from the land, it can pave the way for other invasive species such as hydroids and bryozoans. These are slime formers that equally are problematic. Invasive mussels were discovered in the Colorado River in 2007. As the impact was expected to be significant, Reclamation's lower Colorado River region of Hoover, Davis, and Parker dams developed a task force led by Leonard Willett. First on the task force list were mussel vulnerability audits. First on the task force list was mussel vulnerability audits to determine who and how are most affected. Next, it came across to solutions. The task force accepted a holistic view on all technologies, both chemical and equipment, to develop cost-effective solutions. With water bodies across Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and California, efficacy and environmental compliance of the ultimate solution were key factors in their process. Research, pilots, and demonstrations were conducted using several chemicals, including chlorine, copper, biopesticides, and molluscicides, as well as equipment of high-flow micron filtration, copper generation, traditional UV, and of course, the Hydro-Optic UV. Throughout the next decade, enormous research was conducted. In this session, we'll review some of the highlights from this research. Also, we welcome any follow-up questions after the session is over that require more detailed answers. Following all the detailed evaluations of chemical and non-chemical technologies, Reclamation selected the Hydro-Optic UV technology as the preferred treatment solution at Hoover, Davis, and Parker dams. Further, Reclamation contracted all services, all parts, including lamps and extended warranty, that kept the HODUV systems online and operating for 5 years. This creative service solution allowed Reclamation to have a one-point contact, Atlantium Technologies, to be responsible and keep the technology operating 24/7, 365. The Hydro-Optic UV technology was a non-chemical, environmentally friendly solution that required no permitting by the local regulatory agencies. The HODUV offered the strongest efficacy at a lower energy usage. The equipment was easy to install, as the equipment was compact with a flange-to-flange piping configuration. Prior to the HODUV, the heat exchangers were mechanically cleaned on a yearly basis. After implementation of the HODUVs, the dams eliminated the yearly cleaning and achieved mussel independence. Leonard, Teresa, and I welcome you to sit back and enjoy as we explore the research, audits, and success of how Reclamation stopped mussels from muscling their way in to the hydroelectric facilities. After our session, please feel free to reach out to Leonard or myself if you have any additional questions or wish more information. Now, back to Teresa. Please feel free to submit any questions during our discussion. Again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for setting the stage for us. I'd now like to bring Leonard into the discussion. As we heard in Dennis's presentation, Leonard, you led the Bureau of Reclamation's Lower Colorado Region's Hoover, Davis, and Parker Dam Task Force, which was developed in 2007 to combat the invasion of mussels. So let me ask you about facility assessment as the first step to mussel mitigation planning. What's involved and why is it important to start with facility assessment?
Okay, facility assessments are always recommended because when mussels first arrive on your site, the hydro plant does not know what piece of equipment is going to be affected. And budgets have to be streamlined with the most critical elements of the equipment being addressed first. So the facility assessment just goes in, looks at the exterior and interior surfaces that mussels will affect inside the hydropower plant. And during the facility review, these are documented and listed in order of priority of which ones will be affected first, and then with budget numbers to go forward for the facility so you know how to plan in the future. That's why assessments are so critical. You normally do not want to wait until mussels are starting to plug your system. The assessments are a very simple tool to find out what's going to be affected first, should they arrive, or if they have arrived, which piece of equipment will be affected.
All right, thank you. So as a follow-up to that, how did the study conducted by the task force that you led for the Bureau of Reclamation influence the solution evaluation and the resulting approach you took to cope with the invasion?
Okay, so what the study did at Reclamation is we invited R&T consultant to come in, and they did facility reviews at Hoover, Davis, and Parker dams. From those reviews, they outlined that the cooling water system would be affected first, and that's the area at Reclamation that we needed to address. So we immediately started a research projects, and we researched at least 10 different solutions, and we landed on HODUV as the most economical, easiest turnkey solution to install. We did test many other solutions. There are other solutions that work, but nothing was economical or as easy to install.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I now have a polling question that I'm going to push out to our audience. And we would appreciate it very much if you would go ahead and answer this question. It says, have you completed a water quality audit to better understand the impact and timing of implementing a mussel mitigation plan? You can just select yes or no, and I'll give you just a few seconds to do that, because once you've done that, we're going to push the results out, and then I have a second question for you. So if you would go ahead and answer that. I'll give you, like I said, just a couple more seconds. All right, let's push that out. Okay, there we go. It looks like 8% of you have started implementing a mussel mitigation plan, and 92% of you have not. So you're definitely in the right place. You're going to learn a lot about that today. So now then I have a second question, just for those of you who have implemented a mussel mitigation plan. I've got another question I'm going to push out here for you. And it says, what is the estimated time frame to implement biofueling control measures to stop the spread of invasive mussel species? So again, I'll give you just a few seconds to answer that, and I'm going to push out the answers there so we can look at that, and then we'll carry on with our discussion. All right, so I hope everybody's answered. There we go. We've got 17% 1 to 2 years, 33% 2 to 5 years, and 50% of you say more than 5 years. So thank you all for answering that. That's very helpful as we go through the discussion. It will be helpful also, of course, for our speakers after the fact. So, all right. So Leonard, I'd now like to ask you another question. Findings from the review and updated activities of the Lower Colorado River Dams led Reclamation to identify and outline an environmentally sustainable approach to cope with the invasion. What control options for raw water systems were implemented to prevent invasion and infestation?
So the first measure that we implemented was to install screens in our strainers to 1/8 inch size. So all strainers in the plant had screens replaced and reduced to 1/8 inch size to catch the adult mussels. After the strainers, we installed Atlantium HODUV to control the larvae, and it eliminated all mussel settlement inside our cooling water systems and preventing them from biofouling the system up.
All right, thank you. I have another question. I believe it's for you as well.
Okay.
It's kind of no, actually, this one is for Dennis. So I don't want to leave Dennis out. So Dennis, I have one for you. It says, let me ask you to outline the collaborative research process that was undertaken to better understand the efficacy of Hydro-Optic UV to treat mussels, given the historical efficacy of other UV technologies in similar applications.
The Hydro-Optic UV, thanks. The HOD UV harnesses polychromatic UV from a medium pressure, high intensity lamp that has a broad germicidal spectrum This type of UV, combined with the total internal reflection technology, recycles the UV energy and ensures that a homogeneous dose distribution is inside. And this provides superior power efficiency as compared to traditional UV technologies. This combination allowed fewer UV lamps with smaller systems with less energy. Further, UV was valued as an environmentally friendlier solution. Thus, the researchers extensively studied the HOD UV and traditional UV. In their research, they found that the HOD UV had unique efficiencies that could achieve higher efficacy. Based on the work, Reclamation's Science and Technology program selected this research as their project of the year. Further, Power Magazine awarded Reclamation their 2019 Project Water Award. This research and success gave Reclamation's Lower Colorado River region mussel independence.
All right, thank you for that. I now have another polling question that I'm going to push out to the audience. I think this is our last one for a while. So we're asking for you to rate these O&M factors based on their importance, 1 to 5, 1 being the most important and 5 being the least important. Rate these as far as how they affect your mussel mitigation plan, or what you think is most important in your mussel mitigation plan. So again, I'll give you guys just a few minutes to do that before we move on. And I'm going to get the results out here. So just a couple more seconds. All right, let's see the results. Okay, so it looks like 22% said environmentally friendly was most important. 23% said proven treatment efficacy. So those two are really, really close. Then we had 19% reliability and robustness of treatment solution. And then that was 18%. And then 19% serviceability of treatment solution. And then 20% said cost of treatment solution. So really, it looks like all of those are not exactly even, but pretty close. And obviously, all of those 5 mitigation processes are important to our audience. So thanks for answering that. Now I want to get back to the Reclamation's task force findings. So Leonard, this is for you. With the research done and the compliance plan in place, HOD UV solution was selected and installed. Now then, let's talk about some of the good operational stuff, the O&M experience. Reclamation entered into a turnkey annual maintenance agreement with Atlantium to perform all routine, semi-annual, and annual maintenance for the HOD UV systems. What are the benefits to this collaborative approach?
So this was an interesting question because Reclamation wanted to do their own maintenance on the lamps and on the UV system. But Atlantium came in after we installed it and offered a turnkey service approach that was a lower cost than our people could actually do the maintenance themselves. So then they thought, well, we'll have Atlantium train us. And for 3 years, they followed the service guide, did everything. And at the end of the 3 years, they re-upped the contract to do a turnkey maintenance. And the facility manager at Parker Dam, John Steffen, said, you know, it makes no sense when this isn't our core duties every day for us to do this type of maintenance. Not that we couldn't do it, but it takes us so long to get up to speed on biannual maintenance that it's much more efficient to have Atlantium provide a turnkey. And by turnkey, we have service and all equipment provided. So if anything is needed, Atlantium does it. It's just a phone call away. And that's going into it. We have a 10-year renewal contract now. It's been in place 10 years, I should say. We just renewed the last 5 years of that. So they're very happy with the first 5 years, and now we're renewing the second 5 years for Hoover, Davis, and Parker Dam.
All right, great. So my next question is also for you, Leonard. It says, what are the key takeaways for facility managers and environmental compliance managers?
So the biggest environmental thing that we hear about the HOD is we do not need a discharge permit. Okay, most of the takeaways is from the facility managers is you do not have to look at the light. It's just part of the equipment at a hydropower plant. It's easy to use. It has a screen that you can see how it's functioning. If an alarm comes up, we just call Atlantium and the service guy comes out.
All right, perfect. So I have one more question that I'm going to ask both of you, but before I do that, I want to remind the audience to go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A. Use that Q&A feature to put your questions in, because when we get finished with this question, we're going to start looking at some of those audience questions. So please, we want you to participate. So add your questions. So now back to Leonard and Dennis. Like I said, this question is for both of you. What about the next steps? What's on the horizon when it comes to research and what to expect? Because we all know that in the future, other things are going to try to muscle their way in. So what do you see out there?
Dennis, or you want me to answer it, or you want to answer it?
Well, go ahead and start it. Let me start, and then I'll let you follow up. So I was thinking this, several issues are at play. And first, the installation of ballast water treatment system on ships are in the early stages of implementation. And this could lead to other aquatic invasive species entering the water and the waterways. And next, we're also learning from the existing invasives that, such as the zebra and quagga mussels, these invasive mussels are filtering a liter of water per day. This water, thus the water clarity is improving. As it improves, the sunlight penetrates deeper into the water column. With the combination of the sunlight and increased nutrient loading from the land, new invasives are emerging, such as freshwater sponges, colonial hydroids, bryozoans, and bacteria-based microfouling, such as black sludge. And the other thing, and finally, transfer waters. Transfer waters need to be cleared of invasive species, transferring water from lakes, rivers, or even hatcheries that transfer the fish plus the water, taking the water with the fish. They even need higher efficacy to eradicate the invasive species. Essentially, all these emerging organisms require more stringent requirement, can be controlled by the HODUV, and pending the organism, it just may involve a little more energy. And the good news is the HODUV is expandable. Like Legos, you can add additional lamps and hydro-optic sections at a future date to increase the power to address more stringent organisms or requirements. Leonard?
So one of the things that happens once the mussels arrive is they are filter feeders, and Dennis mentioned that, and how much they filter feed is a liter a day. So as they do that, they clear up the water column. And when they clear up the water column, what we've seen in reclamation is we have other species come in, like colonial hydroids or bryozoas come in. And those are also biofoulers for the treatment plant. Now, or for the hydro facility that needs to treat these from heat exchangers. Now, when we install the HODUV light, we install it for mussel control. Colonial hydroids are a little more difficult to control, but the light does control colonial hydroids when you're using the mussel control dose. The bryozoans are a little more difficult. They take a higher dose, and we've seen biofouling caused by bryozoans after HOD light because the dose is a little bit low. So we need to keep in mind, and that's why when Dennis says these are like Legos, you can expand your HODUV system. It's so if these other invasives come because the water's clearer or easier, then we can deal with them better. So we need to keep in mind it's just simply an extra flange or some room to increase the light if these other critters come in.
All right, thank you both very much for that. So now we are going to move on to some audience questions. We've got some that have come in, so I'm going to take a look at those in just a minute here. I do want to remind you, though, if you haven't put your question in, you still have plenty of time to do that. So please go ahead and add your question. So here is one about, It says, is UV treatment less effective if the water is not clear enough?
So I'll take a stab at it, and then Dennis can take a stab at it, but it's UVT is the clarity of the water. So UVT is always known. Atlantium has a system where they evaluate UVT. So if you have a low UVT, you have dirty or not clear water. If it gets below a threshold, then they change their models. So go ahead, Dennis, you can.
Yeah, I think we've always had a lot of discussion on this. And of course, you look at UV sciences, and the UV transmittance is core to that technology. And a lot of times, at what point does the UV transmittant get low enough that the UV technology is no longer effective? I think one thing with the HODUV, we've been learning we can expand that lower level. And we look at OPG and the work, Ontario Power Generation, we did some studies up there. And throughout the season, at one point in time, it got as low as a 40% UV transmittance, which we thought was pretty low. Yet at the end of the season, they had 100% control. So we found great success there. We've been looking at other facilities along the Missouri River, which actually got lower UV transmittance. Now, Atlantium does have two different technologies and two different sciences. One that's used in the ballast water industry, and that is designed for very low UV transmittance. But it doesn't take into effect the total internal reflection technology, but it does have other features. That's common. That's used in the ballast, which is admittedly a very low UVT. But if you have the advantage of higher UVT, and we're still learning where this is, somewhere around 60 or 70%, taking the HODUV with the internal reflection gives an enormous value to recycling that energy inside that chamber and reducing the size of the equipment. So I'm going to say, the technology is expanding in the UVT, but at the end of the day, I think more studies and more work and more information is coming out about it, and always interested to look at those applications.
All right, thank you. We have another one here. It says, where is the optimum location to install this system to most efficiently treat the zebra mussels?
Leonard, I'll let you tackle that one first.
Okay, the best place to install this piece of equipment is as early as you can in your raw water system, directly after a strainer. The more pipe and heat exchangers you protect, the better off your value is. But you must have a little bit of space, 72 inches, 80 inches. So wherever you have that space, put the equipment in. But if you move it downstream too far, the equipment between the strainer and the UV light, it's still susceptible to biofouling.
No, I'll add one point too, and that is, so when you add the HODUV, more recently, and in some of the work we did on some of the recent dams, we actually talked about adding spool pieces on each side of the HODUV, and then the concept of that is when future organisms or future invasives may arrive, it has the ability to pull the spool piece out. And this spool piece is the length of a hydro-optic section and a UV and a lamp section. This way, additional, like I said before, like Legos, you can add additional sections at a later date. And so, like Leonard said, a strainer followed by the HODUV, but in the setup of the HODUV, now maybe having spool pieces just after, so another HODUV could be added for more energy, is a good consideration as well.
All right, thank you. Another question here, they're asking, given the new and upcoming pathogens, viruses, bacteria, and threats in waterways, what is the role of the HODUV in markets such as conservation hatcheries and power stations that tie in closely with ecosystems of hydroelectric facilities?
I'll jump in that, Leonard. So the role of the HODUV is already a huge factor in conservation hatcheries. The technology's efficiency to achieve stronger efficacy in virus protection It has been a big benefit to hatcheries. The HODUV is patented for 4-log inactivation of the IPN virus. And the IPN virus is a leading virus in closed-loop aquaculture environments that greatly harm fish. Essentially, the HODUV offers complete biosecurity. And I'd like to give you an example. A fish hatchery in Manitoba increased their productivity almost 7 times, which is pretty extraordinary for the fish hatchery. And that just goes to the value of the biosecurity of the HODUV. Maybe to address the other power industry, in power and steam production, EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, they awarded the Southern companies with their Innovation Award based upon their research with the HODUV. The industry had discoveries in membrane and resin protection that greatly enhanced their operation using the HODUV. And maybe just ended it. Essentially, all industries benefit when they can get away from chemical use, storage, and handling, particularly when the technology discoveries bring increased value and savings to their industry.
All right, thank you for that. It looks like we have one more audience question. So again, audience, we still have some time left. If you have any questions, please go ahead and write those in. We have a few more minutes. We do have one more here that I want to ask. It says, what should facilities look for when working with a firm such as R&T to undertake a water quality audit for invasive mussel mitigation?
So you cut off, but if I understood the question correctly, it is what is involved in an R&T audit?
Yeah, let me just read it again and make sure you get it right, or I get it right. What should facilities look for when working with a firm such as R&T to undertake a water quality audit for invasive mussel mitigation?
So normally what is done is the company will contact our RT consultant and they'll ask for a facility review. And we will sign a contract and we will come in and we'll tour the facilities, whether it's a pump station, a hydro facility. Usually we do several of them in one visit, and we do it with all of the staff, the knowledgeable staff, all the maintenance people. And they show us the facilities. We discuss where historically mussels will give us a problem, and then we go visit them directly. We capture it with photos and a report. And we also provide a budget for what the solution will cost and recommendations. And then the companies or hydro facilities will have this report that they can take to the facility managers, their budget people, and to give you, and it's very helpful down the road, to give you a cost. It's pretty inexpensive. If you only have 1 or 2 generators, it's usually around $10,000. If you have 3 or 4 generators, medium-sized hydro plant, and we do several of those, it's less than $24,000. And if we do very large facilities with fish ladders and other things, it can go up as high as $40,000 to $45,000. So it just depends on the size of the facility. It's not one size fits all.
Okay, well, thank you. So I don't see any more audience questions right now. So I just want to thank you both, Leonard and Dennis. Thank you so much for the great discussion. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to put together this session for us. And I also want to thank you, audience, for tuning in and also for submitting some great questions. We really appreciate that. I also want to let you know in the audience that on Thursday, Leonard and Dennis will be hosting a match session at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, and they're going to talk more about the HODUV system. So if you have some really specific questions about your facility or anything like that, please go ahead and register for that session in the HydroVision Exchange platform. It will be a bit more intimate, less formal presentation, really just a Q&A to get down to some real nitty-gritty information that you would like to know for your facility in particular. So before we sign off, I have one more survey question for you. Let me get it up here on the screen. There it is. It says, how can we provide you additional information following today's session? So please, if you would like to request a meeting, certainly let us know. If you would like to receive additional information and follow up, let us know. And if you have what you need at this time, let us know that too. But like I said, please remember Thursday afternoon because you can get more information then. So while you're answering that question, I want to let you know that this session will be available on demand within 48 hours. And while we are thrilled to connect with you virtually in this Hydro Exchange session and in this week, we really look forward to seeing you in person again in 2021. And with that, I want to let you know that we have changed the dates and the location of HydroVision International for 2021. I know we postponed it already from 2020 to June of 2021, but now we're pushing it out just a little bit farther. We will now convene face-to-face in Spokane, Washington on July 27th through the 29th. And we know that many of you will likely not be able to travel in the first half of 2021. So that's why we wanted to move those dates out just a little bit to the second half of 2021. And we hope that by that time, it will be safe for us to travel, safe for us to be together. Hopefully we'll all have vaccines by then and life will be much more normal. So we really look forward to seeing you at HydroVision in person in July of 2021. So please go ahead and mark your calendars. Obviously, we'll be sending out a lot more information in the next few months, but I just wanted you to get that on your calendar. And hopefully you're going to be as excited as we are to see us all in person. So once again, I want to thank Atlantium for sponsoring this session. We really appreciate their support of HydroVision Exchange. And I want to thank all of you in the audience for joining us today. Also, I want to remind you that we have another session coming up at 1:30 Central Time, so a little over an hour from now. It's Energy Storage, Novel Approaches for Integrated Storage Systems. So you have time to grab some lunch and check your emails, and then hopefully you'll be back here with us at 1:30 Central Time. And again, thank you all, both our presenters and our audience. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Take care.